Hello, I'm Jack Cavanaugh, author of an American Family Portrait series, a Christian historical fiction series that spans American history, from the early English settlers all the way to the present time. The first book of the series, The Puritans, was released 20 years ago, and since that time, 8 more books have been added to the series. Collectively, they have sold over 250,000 copies. And on this 20th anniversary, I thought it might be fun to take a look back at the series, to see how it developed, how it came about, and just to tell you some of the stories, the anecdotes that were involved in the making of this series, such as why it took 13 years for me to get my very first book contract, and maybe some humorous episodes about during the times of promotion. For example, what it was like to be on live call-in talk shows late at night. Strange people are up late at night calling into the radio talk shows. And for me, it turned out to be more like an on-the-air American history quiz. Fun stuff. Or about the time that I met one of my younger fans, and he was visibly disappointed at meeting me. Come to find out, he thought that I would look like Drew Morgan on the cover of The Puritans. And, well, as you can see, yeah, he has reason to be disappointed. So I thought in this very first introductory video, I would set the stage for the coming episodes by telling you why I write Christian historical fiction. Let's take a look at the historical part first. Nerd alert. I love history. I love reading it. I love teaching it. I love researching it. In fact, if there's a problem in my writing is that I research too much. I research far more than I can ever put into one book. And so I realize now that I'm probably losing some of you. You're thinking, oh, he's one of those. Well, yeah, I am. But here's a shocking truth. You may be one of those also and just not know it. Because history, well done, is merely a collection of stories. Stories of great leaders, great adventurers, great inventors, great statesmen, great events that swept up humanity like a tidal wave, great destructions and survivals, great evil overcome, epic stories that were handed down first word by word and then written down because we couldn't help telling them. This is what history really is. History is stories, and we love stories. Years ago, Time magazine did a survey of their magazine to find out who was reading what portions of the magazine. And they found out that one page was read more often than any other in the entire magazine, and that page was called People. Just short vignettes, stories about people. Well, that launched People magazine and several others because we love hearing stories about other people. When I was going to school, I had 2 elderly women in my classes in history, in an English class, English history class, and they got it. Now, these women were both widowed. They were both going back to school simply because they wanted something to do rather than crochet or knit or cook. And so they took history classes. And I walked in one day, there they are sitting in the corner, huddled over one another, and they're talking about English history like it was a soap opera. Well, it is. It's exactly like a soap opera. They got it. If you were to read the love letters of John Adams and Abigail Adams as they were separated during the Continental Congress and see the anguish and the love poured out between this couple, you would not look at our founding fathers the same way again. Or Benedict Arnold, the great traitor of that Revolutionary War. He would go down to the Caribbean. Before the war, he was an apothecary, and there he would get supplies. Oftentimes, he would delay sailing back and risking his crew, his ships, because of oncoming winter weather. Because of the delay, he was waiting for a letter from his wife, a letter she would never send. She never wrote to him. But here we have this lovesick man who became one of the great traitors of history, and you just see him in an entirely different light. So history is stories. So when I began writing the Christian historical fiction series, American Family Portrait, um, I had 5 proofreaders, 5 readers who would try to help me keep me on task. I submitted the story to them and invited their comments before I sent it on to the publisher. And 2 of those readers were readers who told me they hated history. And I knew that if I could win them over, I was on the right track. And so I looked forward to the time and got it when in the margins, in a section that I knew was history, they would put a comment, "Ooh, this is good." See, I had them. Now, how did I do it? It's because of that second part, Christian historical, sorry, the third part, historical fiction, stories. I knew I had them because I wasn't teaching history, I was telling stories. So when you're reading the Puritans, you're not reading about the persecution of the Puritans by Bishop William Laud in 1630s. You are reading about a young man dreaming of glory who infiltrates a small English village hoping to discover the identity of a notorious Puritan pamphleteer who was writing seditious literature, only to find a godly curate and his 2 lovely daughters, and a cause worth fighting and dying for. When you're reading The Colonists, you're not reading about pre-Revolutionary War development in the early American colonies. You're reading about the sudden and tragic death of a father that launched his eldest son Philip on a quest for a lost Bible, about the younger son Jared's coming of age on board, of all places, a pirate ship upon which he was shanghaied, or about his daughter Priscilla and her stubborn insistence to teach women the Bible, which got her in trouble and eventually put her in the pillory in the town square. See, the power behind historical fiction is its ability to transport readers back in time so they aren't reading about the past, they're actually experiencing it. In fact, in the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how this works. Great stuff. You're not going to want to miss it. But there's one more element still. It's Christian historical fiction that I write. Christian. If the goal of historical fiction is to transport a reader back in time and allow them to relive history, then the goal of Christian historical fiction is to transport readers back in time to allow them to know what it was like to live as a Christian in a different day and age. What it was like to have the scriptures in your home for the very first time. What it was like to be arrested and convicted and even burned at the stake simply because you were caught reading an English version of the Bible and it was against the law. Or what it was like to be a German Christian in Hitler's Germany. Or what it was like to be so persecuted for your faith that you fled your home, everything you knew, your home, your church, sometimes your family, and went across treacherous waters to a hostile wilderness, taking your family and trying to find a place where you could live according to the dictates of your heart. You see, with each of my novels, it's my prayer that my readers will be inspired to live as faithfully and as courageously as some Christians did in the past. That we will be as courageous in the present as they were in the past. Why do I write Christian historical fiction? Not to teach history, though the books are used in Christian high schools and in homeschools. I don't write it to entertain, though I hope they're entertaining. And I don't write it just to make money. There are other types of novels that are much more popular, much more profitable than historical fiction. So why write Christian historical fiction? Let me answer by asking you a question. How many serial killer novels does one nation really need? See, give me a story about heroic faith any day. I want to write stories that will change people's lives, not make them afraid of fear and lurking evil around every corner, or to titillate them with gore and blood. I take delight in the letters I receive, letters from missionaries in Moscow, who wrote to tell me that my novels helped them persevere through a long Russian winter. Letters from a husband who told me that his wife had never read a novel since she was forced to in high school, and he gave her one of mine, and since then she's read the entire series, and they talk about it at night while they're eating dinner. about a young woman who wrote me and said, after reading The Patriots and the struggle between the two twin brothers in that story, she felt convicted and compelled to mend a broken relationship with her brother. And the letters from several fathers who said they've gone out and purchased a family Bible in order to hand it down to their sons in the same way that the Morgan family Bible was handed down to the Morgan family son, generation after generation after generation. See, over the next several weeks, I'm going to be posting videos and audios and putting things on my website, simply looking back at the American Family Portrait series. Think of these episodes that are to come as bonus features on a DVD disc. For each book, there will be 4 episodes. There's going to be an introductory video where I give an overview of the book and the characters and the writing of it. There'll be an episode called The Way We Were, where I will give the headlines and celebrities and entertainments of that day and age. What were people talking about then? Episode 3 will be Behind the Pages. I'll simply share some of my journey as I was writing the series. And then episode 4 of each book will be Inspirational History. I will highlight some of the historical heroes of that day and retell their stories of courage and of faith. I'm looking forward to it. I hope that you will join me. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you will push one of those share buttons down there and send a tweet, post something on Facebook, and just invite some family and friends to come join you and me, and as we take a look at American history and the American Family Portrait series. Until next time, God's blessings on you.